Welcome to Kelly's Roadhouse, episode number 8, the podcast where we recap every single Sweet Valley High book in the entire series. My name is Paula and I'm here with Rich.
Hello.
This fortnight we are going to be recapping book number 8, Heartbreaker. So reading the back, it says, "Catch a wave." The surf's up in Sweet Valley and gorgeous Jessica Wakefield is making a big splash with Bill Chase, the hottest surfer in town. But after she tricks him into falling madly in love with her, she ignores him completely. To complicate matters, shy, quiet Dee Dee Gordon is also after Bill, but Jessica has the upper hand. If Bill even looks at Dee Dee, Hurricane Jessica blows him off his board and back into her arms. Can Bill escape Jessica's undertow, or is he in over his head?
Well, this might be the first one where the answer is yes, eventually.
So he's in over his head. No, he
can escape.
The question on the front says, "Will Jessica break Bill's heart?"
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he will.
He will. She will.
She will, yeah.
She will.
And we've got a nice blue cover in this one.
Mm-hmm. It's a very nice looking cover and a very... it's one of my... I like the picture a lot.
So it's Bill standing against a wall with Jessica holding him by his necklace, pulling on his necklace and looking like she's
in command.
Like he's a dog on a lead or something.
I'm a particular fan of this cover because if you know the series Maxie's World, they made dolls of Maxie's boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Rob, is it his boyfriend? And
yeah,
there's a particular doll with massive hair that looks exactly like this. So for some reason, Bill Chase looks like Rob from Maxie's World.
This isn't what I imagine Bill Chase to look like.
Not at all. Not at all. He doesn't look really like a surf dude to me.
No, he looks quite cool as well.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he looks more like a jock, yeah.
He's got a t-shirt on saying Sweet Valley Surf Club, though. A blue vest.
That's true.
We need to get some of those.
Okay. That could happen.
Sweet Valley Surf Club. Right, so shall we get to recapping it?
Let's do this.
Okay, so we open with Jessica telling Bill Chase to kiss her. And to get it right this time...
Yeah.
And then he turns red. And she thinks, poor Bill, he's madly in love with me.
It says that his cheeks turn a dull brick red. Which I thought, like, way to make Bill sound super attractive right off the mark.
Yeah. But don't worry, they're just rehearsing for the school production of Splendor in the Grass.
Yeah, because for some reason, Jessica's now in the drama club.
And she keeps insisting that the kiss isn't right, just to embarrass him.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we learn in the last book, she's on some revenge mission because he turned her down
once
to go to the Sadie Hawkins dance or something, whatever the hell that is.
Presumably, like,
who's Sadie Hawkins?
I have no idea.
Dance?
Why do they name her? Why do they name her specifically?
Anybody know who Sadie Hawkins is? Let us know.
Maybe she's in like one of the kids or twins books, but like it's really weird because they name her specifically, and it makes me think that this happened like a decade ago, but Jessica's just not forgotten when they were 9 years old. He didn't go on a date with her, and she's just held a grudge ever since. So now, at 16, she's going to take her revenge.
So since what happened at the end of Dear Sister, where she he was infatuated with Liz and thought he was going on a date with Liz, but it was really Jessica dressed as Liz.
Yes. Because they're identical twins, don't you know?
And she made him kiss her and say he was in love with her, and then she confessed that she was Jessica.
Yes, and instead of being furious like I feel a normal human being would be, Bill's just like, okay, you'll do. It's fine. I am in love with you then.
Yeah. Since what happened then, he's hopelessly hooked on her, apparently.
Yeah, obsessed now.
Yeah, in a weird way.
We will get to how weird that is pretty soon.
So Liz sees Jessica in the hallway after the rehearsal and tells her that Bill's crazy about her and that it's mean to rub his nose in it.
Yes, which it is.
We start this book feeling sorry for Bill.
I did,
but
yeah.
That does change.
Absolutely did, because Jessica's in full-on revenge mode. She's doing things to humiliate him in front of people. It's definitely feel sorry for Bill to begin with.
Yeah.
Liz is acting like nothing happened, like presumably a week ago when she hit her head and went crazy, started, trying to sleep with Bruce Patman.
She became fun Liz.
Became fun Liz. She's back to being dull Liz now.
Yeah.
And so she is angry at Jess, saying that, you know, it's unfair the way you're treating him and humiliating him.
And then we get the description of the twins, which is a bit tame this time. And I think they're saving up all of their description
for someone else,
which we'll get to again later. Yep. So it just says they've got honey and sunshine hair, aquamarine eyes, and perfect features.
Yeah.
Jessica does her usual gaslighting of Liz. Bingo. And says that she only went out with Bill in the first place to save Liz's skin. Yeah,
she turns it around on Liz. And by the way, Liz immediately drops it as soon as this comes up. She's like, oh yeah, fair enough.
And then we get a description of Bill. So, Bill is kind of cute in a cool, mysterious way. A loner who loves to surf.
Yes.
AKA weirdo.
What is a cool, mysterious way, I wonder? How do you look cool and mysterious? He doesn't look very mysterious on the cover.
No. Liz says if Jessica isn't going to go out with him, she should just stop leading him on. Yeah.
And that's I think, a fair comment.
And she's at the rehearsals to meet Todd, who's apparently been going to the rehearsals to support Bill.
Yeah, they're best friends now?
Because he's such good friends with Bill. Despite in the last book, Bill asked out the woman or the girl who was treating him like shit, Liz.
Yeah, so in the last book, Liz got hit on the head and became worse than Jessica. And basically, Bill ended up trying to get a date with Liz. But for some reason, Todd's just forgotten all of that, and he's best friends with him.
Yeah. Because in the last book, there was that scene where...
he was going to kill that guy.
where Todd was confiding in Bill that he was upset about what was going on. Yep. And Bill was like, sounds like she's being awful to you. Would you mind if I asked her out?
Yeah.
It was really weird.
Because I was thinking that. I was like, maybe it's because obviously Todd, there's that scene where Todd's like, oh, you know, Bill's with Liz. And then Liz turns up and is like, no, that's Jessica that he's with. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay. But prior to that, there was literally a scene where he was like, oh, I'm sorry to hear about your troubles, buddy. Do you mind if I date your ex?
Mind if I have a go on her?
Yeah, like, okay.
Yeah. Why? I forgot even more. Oh, yeah, so
Todd's at this
been going to the
rehearsal
to support Bill, his best friend.
Winston's gone. Don't worry.
So Jess tells Liz that it looks like she's got some competition.
Yeah. The book also mentions that Elizabeth was born 4 minutes is 4 minutes older than Jess, but that, according to Jess, it sometimes feels more like 4 years. And I think it sounds more like 40 years, to be honest, the way Liz goes on.
Yeah. So Todd is standing with his arms around the most beautiful girl Elizabeth has ever fucking seen. It
feels as if the bottom fell out of her stomach when Liz even catches sight of this girl.
So Todd introduces her to his old friend, Patsy Webber.
Yes, Patsy
And Liz
Webber.
wonders why she's never heard of her. She's such a good friend, which is a good point.
It's a fair point. Yeah, it is definitely a fair point.
So this is what they were saving the description up for. So when Patsy smiles, she reveals glorious white teeth and a charming dimple in her heart-shaped chin. Liz thinks she could be a model. She was wearing a straw slim skirt belted with a wide leather sash and delicate high heels. Her coppery red hair was cut fashionably short at the back, with a tumble of curls that dipped over her forehead. Todd explains that she's been living in Paris, but her dad has been transferred to Sweet Valley.
Did you see the bit about the handshake? Which I thought was really weird.
No, I don't think so.
So Liz comes up and says hi, and immediately is in her mind, we kind of get that she's massively jealous already and paranoid already. She says hi, and then she shakes hands with Patsy, which I thought was weird. That's a weird thing to do to someone's friend.
That sounds like the way Elizabeth would be.
It's like a business meeting.
I could imagine Elizabeth being like that.
Yeah. So she shakes her hand, but it says, it's described that her hand is stuck out like a limp rag compared to Patsy's cool, confident grasp.
Well, she's even got amazing hands.
She's
Patsy.
even got amazing hands. Yeah, Patsy's also described as looking too sophisticated for high school.
Well, yeah, she has been living in Paris.
Yeah.
So Patsy said that she's hopefully staying around and that it's good to see her old friends. And then she throws her arms around Todd and gazes up at him with an expression that hints at more than friendship.
Oh my goodness.
So when she's gone, Liz starts digging and she asks Todd if they were close friends. And Todd is up front straight away. He says, actually, she's my ex.
Yeah, he said we used to date, but that's in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Liz thinks that Patsy seems so different and special, and she feels dull and interesting in comparison.
She is dull and uninteresting, but that's got nothing to do with Patsy.
Yeah, she's just like that anyway.
Although she is presumably one head injury away from being interesting again.
Yeah. So Rich has this thing, he thinks that if she gets hit in the head again, she might turn back into fun Liz.
We get no details of her going back to the doctors afterwards, the hospital, to double check that this couldn't happen again, that there's no like long-term problems here.
She just banged her head on a table and was back to normal.
So as far as I'm concerned, if she bangs her head on the table again, or at a wall, or falls over and hits her head, she'll be back. She'll be back to Liz.
I can't decide which version of Liz I hate more.
I think honestly, as much as it pains me to say it, I think I prefer dull Liz to what we had in the last book.
I think I do, actually.
She was dating Bruce Patman. There is no excuse for that.
Yeah. So Bill comes over to chat with them.
Yeah.
With Dee Dee Gordon, one of the other cast members.
Dee Dee is like immediately well over the top here.
Yeah. Dee Dee is small and athletic looking, with a roundish face, dusted lightly with freckles and merry brown eyes, peering out from under glossy dark bangs. I think she sounds great.
I adore Dee Dee.
All right, calm down.
She's good. No, but what we'll see as this book goes on, because basically everyone is pretty much awful, apart from Dee Dee in this book.
Bill is saying he doesn't think he's good enough to be in the play,
mm-hmm.
and Todd says not to let Jessica get to him. But he immediately rushes to Jessica's defence.
Yeah, he does.
He won't have a bad word said about her.
No, he is just being super over the top and defensive when anyone mentions Jessica in a bad light. And this continues through the whole book.
Yeah.
Even when Jess is actually doing some pretty nasty things.
So Dee Dee tells him he's a natural, and Liz says that Dee Dee would know because her father is a hotshot Hollywood agent. Yeah.
Dee Dee says she's embarrassed about this. She doesn't like to talk about her dad's work, usually. And she also says that she feels untalented.
Yeah. She says she's also trying to learn how to surf, but she feels like King Kong when she gets on the board.
Yeah. But of course, we know someone who can surf really well. Mr. Bill Chase. And he says he'd be up for giving her some lessons on the beach.
So they start to arrange this, but then they get interrupted. He stops mid-sentence as he spots Jessica arm in arm with Tom McKay.
Yeah.
Jessica blows him a kiss, and he looks like he's been knighted by the Queen of England.
Yeah, he just like freezes in like he's like hypnotized.
Yeah, and then he runs away. Turns red and just runs away.
Just runs away. That's like the kind of thing like a 8-year-old would do.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But anyway.
So yeah, that's the kind of reaction that he has to her.
Yes, he is like obsessed with her now. Which is weird because I said in the last book I would be furious if someone did that to me. What she did to Bill in the last book, pretending to be her sister. And then saying like, oh yeah, I tricked you into kissing me and now you're in love with me. I'll be like, I'm horrified by you. That's awful. But anyway.
So back at the Wakefield's house, Jessica's stuck doing the dishes and she's complaining that she's going to be late for her date with Tom.
Yes, and her slaver parents don't care.
Yeah. Liz offers to help her and they end up having a full-on soap suds war.
They do. But before that happens, we actually have Alice sitting back watching her kids slave away because they do all the chores in this house and the parents never do anything. I think occasionally they've cooked, but other than that, the kids do everything. She actually sits back and she's just like, oh, kids are such a pain in the ass. Yeah. It's like you're literally just using them as slave labour now. Come on. But yeah, they have a sud war.
The kitchen ends up drenched. And while they're doing this, Alice is just sitting down drinking a cup of coffee. Yeah, and bitching about them. I bet they cooked as well. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that I know. I think too much about these things and I need to stop. But Jessica's date is at 7:30. Just 37 backwards.
Oh.
So I just had to throw that in
I
there.
don't think that counts.
I don't think it counts, but it's just the way my brain works. I'm seeing 37 everywhere.
You're getting Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I am.
Now.
Is that 13? That
23.
Movie? 23.
The film, the number 23,
Yeah.
Jim Carrey loses his mind and
Yeah.
sees the number 23 everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
You need to make a
37.
film called the number 137.
Yeah. So yeah, Liz and her end up having this water war in the kitchen. And Jess pretty much leaves Liz to clean it all up.
Yeah, she jokes that they can get Bill to clean it up as he's so crazy about water. And Liz says he'd probably swim to Tahiti if Jess asked him to.
Yeah, and Jess just doesn't care though. Jess is like, yeah,
No.
probably.
Jessica says she deserves everything he gets for ignoring her.
Yeah, so he deserves everything he gets for saying no to my date back in the day.
But Liz says, since when was turning you down a federal crime?
Yeah, but Liz says, Jess says she can't. Sorry, I'm used to Liz being like this in the last book, so now I'm thinking I'm getting the two confused. But she said it's not her fault if Bill's crazy about her, and she's not holding a gun to his head. To which Liz says that the way Jess leads him on is just as lethal as holding a gun to his head.
There's some comparison. And Liz says that it looks like Dee Dee's got her eye on Bill.
Yeah, and Jess is outraged by this.
She says, that little nobody. She sneers.
Yeah, it's like she's not even interested in Bill, but now she's like, oh no, but I can't have this. My social status will not allow Dee Dee to upstage me.
And yeah, Liz tells her about the surfing lessons, and Jessica explodes.
Yeah.
She says that he won't have time for rehearsals. And that reminds her she has to call him because she's forgotten her script.
Yes, so she runs upstairs, leaving Liz to clean up.
Yeah, she says it's just a teeny little puddle. And Liz says it's more like Marine World in here.
Well, they are all about saving whales. They could move some into the kitchen.
So an hour later, Bill shows up.
With the script,
to drop the script off for like a good little slave. But Jessica's already gone out.
Yeah, she's on her date, presumably.
Yeah. Liz feels awkward and invites him in for a drink.
Yeah, oh, here we go again. Liz, just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. But she doesn't hear. She's like, oh, yeah, she's gone to her... But she's busy. I can't remember what she said. Oh, something came up last minute. That's what she says to begin with. And then she offers Bill a drink.
And Bill asks her if Jessica's on a date.
Yeah.
And Liz tries to be tactful. And she says... Jessica's just impossible to pin down. And Bill's like, well, she probably has a million guys after her, but I'll get used to standing in line.
Yeah, that's the way you want to have a relationship, Bill. Yeah, it's... yeah. I can't with this guy. I just can't. Already. Also, it says he looks upset and goes red again. Bill goes red so many times in this book. I feel like he might have a blood pressure problem or something.
The cover should have been him going red.
It should have been. Just,
that would have been really funny.
Just his face. Just really red.
Dull brick red.
A dull brick red, yeah.
So he says he has to go and do his homework. Because apparently he forgot all about it when Jessica called and just dropped it.
He just dropped everything. So he leaves the warm root beer that Liz found for her because Jessica apparently didn't put the shopping away properly.
See, putting the fucking shopping away. What does Alice, Wakefield and Ned do? What do they do?
I don't know. I literally, I think occasionally there's been like a couple of times where they've come down to breakfast and Alice has made them breakfast.
I think Alice usually makes the breakfast.
But that's it.
I think that's the only thing I've ever seen any of them do.
I don't think either of them do anything else.
Elizabeth and Jessica. Elizabeth feels down, so she calls Todd.
Yeah.
But he's not there.
No, he is not.
And his mum doesn't know where he is.
No. But of course, now that's it. Liz is convinced he's having an affair.
Yeah, so she immediately gets an image in her head of Todd and Patsy together.
Yeah. She imagines them kissing and hugging, and it says that a wave of panic descends over her.
And she thinks that Patsy's the right height to gaze into Todd's eyes without getting a crick in her neck the way that she does.
Yeah. She also inwardly curses her writer's imagination for coming up with such a thing.
Yeah, obviously it's because she's a writer.
Yeah, it's because she's such a
It's not just
writer.
because she's being a bit of a jealous girl.
No.
It's because she's a writer.
It's because of her writing. That's how she's got this image in her head.
Yeah. Like any other girl couldn't
possibly
have that.
They wouldn't have the imagination to understand that. No.
Yeah. So Bill's also worried on his drive home.
And a bit depressed, I think.
He tells himself he should have known Jess would stand him up.
Yeah.
She didn't arrange a date with him. She didn't really stand him up. She asked him to drop a script off.
And to be fair, she didn't even presumably say they were going to have a conversation. She was like, can you just drop it round? She doesn't need to be there for you to drop it round, Bill. Oh, God, I'm defending Jess.
And he's thinking how beautiful she is.
And then it gets a bit weird.
So then he drives to the deserted beach.
Yeah.
And he sits at the foot of a sand dune. He scoops up handfuls of sand and lets them run through his fingers.
Yeah.
And he remembers another girl.
Yes, Julianne.
When I was reading this, I had if this was like a film, it would be like the wavy screen when you go into a dream sequence.
Yeah, if it was Sweet Valley High, the TV show, that was what would happen. So I thought this was just at this point I thought, oh, okay, so Bill, loved someone else and they moved away, but that's not what happened, is it?
No.
So remembering Julianne.
Julianne from Santa Monica.
Yeah.
She had long blonde hair that danced with sparkles of light from the morning sun, and her eyes were bluer than blue. He admired her at school, and he discovered she was also a surfer. She'd been surfing since she was 5, apparently.
Yeah.
Can people surf when they're 5? That doesn't sound
I'm
safe.
assuming not, but it seems very unsafe.
Yeah, a 5-year-old surfer. Okay.
Why not?
Apparently she'd been watching him too, and they fell in love.
Yeah. It doesn't end well, does it? Because one night, during this lovely romance, and I thought what was going to happen here was that, okay, of course, they were in love, and then he had to move away. He had to move away to Sweet Valley, and that's why, he's still in love with her, but they're so distant. No, turns out that on a rainy night, whilst driving up to see him, her car skidded across the road, hit an embankment, and exploded. She is dead.
Well, actually, they just had an argument.
Oh, yeah,
so
sorry.
they were
yes,
at a party. He accused her of flirting with another guy. So she left the party with a friend instead of him.
I missed that. Yeah.
And then she never made it home.
She never made it home.
So basically, the last thing that they did
was argue. Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, Bill went surfing that night.
He went crazy.
Yes.
So there was a storm. He went surfing in a storm. Nearly drowned and ended up with pneumonia.
Yeah. Yeah. Slowly recovered whilst trying to come to terms with Julianne's death. But then it gets a bit weird because it turns out the reason that Bill fancied Jess and now Liz is because they look exactly like Julianne.
Yeah, apparently the reason he turned Jessica down at first was because she reminded him so much of Julianne. But that's absolute bullshit because he fancied Elizabeth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. This is bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe Julianne had the dimple on the back or whatever it is that differentiates the two of them. And that's why he only wanted Jessica or Liz.
The mole.
The mole. Sorry, it's a mole,
the
isn't it?
mole on the left shoulder.
Mole on the left shoulder of Liz, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. He was like, oh, that makes her different enough.
Yeah.
So I can date her, but not Jess.
She wore a watch.
Yeah. Bill, kind of depressingly thinks to himself that maybe he's just doomed where love is concerned.
It's like you're 16.
Yeah, come on.
So at the beach that weekend, Jessica is annoyed because Bill and Dee Dee are surfing together.
Yeah, and Cara's teasing her.
And Liz thinks that Dee Dee looks pretty good for a beginner. But Jess says, why is he wasting his time on her when she's not as pretty as me?
Yeah.
Because you're a bitch.
Because you're a bitch. Cara says She doesn't say because you're a bitch. Cara says, maybe Dee Dee lassoed him with a piece of seaweed.
Then she stands up abruptly and heads straight for Bill in her bronze wet look bikini. She's been to Foxy Mama's.
She's been to Foxy Mama's. Yes, she certainly has. So she swims out to Bill, getting some attention from guys on the way.
Of course.
Of course, yes, which she loves.
And then she tells Bill she's always wanted to learn how to surf. And that maybe he can give her some lessons too.
And Bill immediately in front of Dee Dee says he would absolutely love to.
And he turns into a stammering wreck. And Dee Dee's heart sinks.
And it only gets worse from there.
Bill says he can teach both of them at the same time, and that Jessica can use his board. And Dee Dee feels like crying.
Yeah.
Because she can tell that he wants to be alone with Jess.
Yeah.
But he's just being polite.
Yeah, so, she's gonna, say politely that, she had to go anyway.
Yeah. She says she's been in the water too long, so she started to shrivel up. And Jessica wrinkles her nose at her in distaste.
But then it gets worse for poor Dee Dee, because as she's leaving, Bill then says, well, if you're not using your board, Dee Dee, can Jessica borrow your board? And of course, Dee Dee, being lovely and
just take everything I have.
Just take my soul.
Take my soul. Take my life.
Yeah, she gives her a surfboard. Jessica says it'll take her 137 years to learn how to surf.
There it is.
There it is.
Back on land later on, Bill is rubbing sun cream into Jessica's back.
A theme for this show.
Yeah. And Dee Dee is sat further down the beach looking depressed.
Poor Dee Dee.
So Tom McKay approaches and Jessica immediately pulls away from Bill. And she says she's hungry.
Yeah. And of course Bill, being her slave now, immediately says he's happy to go and get her some food from the Dairy Burger.
Yeah. He says he's happy to go and get her some food from the Dairy Burger. Tom arrives with a bunch of people, including Patsy Webber, who is looking breathtaking.
Of course she is. Of course she is.
In a bikini that consisted of nothing more than 3 tiny scraps of material and a yard of string. Liz had never seen anything so daring.
Well, it's probably the same thing she wore to her party last week when she had a head injury.
Patsy asks if anyone would like to join her for a swim. And Todd says he wouldn't mind cooling off. I bet he wouldn't, thinks Liz.
Well, yes.
And he does invite Liz.
I mean, he is an afterthought, though.
Yeah, and she thinks
kind of starts walking off.
Convincing.
I feel like he starts walking off and then he turns around and he's like, would you like to come?
Yeah, we were talking about this, weren't we? Like, his ex comes up, like, wearing, like, nearly naked, just like, want to come for a swim with me. And Todd's just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, like he wouldn't you immediately turn to your partner and be like, oh, should we go for a swim or should we stay here?
Yeah.
Because that, it's a joint decision, not like, oh yeah, I'm going to go. Oh, by the way, do you want to tag along?
No sense. He's just stupid.
Well, yes, I can't decide. This is the first book where I'm unsure whether Todd has actually been a bit of a dick in this book. There's like, I think it crossed the line
really good
for me.
Until now.
This is the first book where he crossed the line for me. Not necessarily
but he's not doing
here,
anything deliberately.
But, the bit at the house
at
the pool party for me is like, you've definitely crossed.
Yeah, but even then...
He's just an idiot.
He's not doing anything deliberately.
That's true.
He is doing something wrong.
He is doing
We'll
something
get to it later.
We will get to it very soon, yeah. So,
Jessica says Liz is afraid of sharks, glancing at Patsy. Bitchy. And then Tom says that I only believe in mermaids and nuzzles Jessica's cheek. And then Jessica says to Tom, are you implying there's something fishy about me?
Excellent. Excellent punnage.
That's my favourite line in the whole book.
That's a good line. It's a very good line.
I don't think they meant that. Like,
no, I don't think
how
they
I've
did.
taken it.
Lila also says that...
Fishy Jess.
Fishy Jess, yeah. Lila says that the hair, her hair is frizzy city if she goes in the water, so she refuses to go in the water.
Liz feels abandoned.
Yeah.
So she goes to Todd's car to get a book. Oh, fuck's sake. This bit I was like, what the fuck?
So, Olivia, who's into, vegan spreads and hates offshore
Offshore drilling.
Oil drilling.
Yeah, so she bumps into Olivia, Lois, and Enid.
Oh my god.
Enid is concerned and asks if she's been crying, but Liz says, "Oh, I've just got sand in my eye." And then Olivia says, "Yeah, the same thing happened to me when Winston accidentally kicked sand in my eye. I thought I was going to go blind." Like, calm the fuck down.
Jesus,
you're not going to go blind. You've got a bit of sand in your eye.
Yeah.
So they all head back down to the beach and they can see Todd and Patsy splashing around.
Yeah.
And Olivia comments how much Patsy's changed.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently she used to be just like skin and bones, and now she's perfect.
Now she's a goddess.
She's a goddess now.
And Olivia says, "Oh, I can never figure out what Todd saw in her, but it looks like she's filled out in all the right places now."
Yeah, yeah. And also mentions that they were in love.
Yeah. So Liz says, "Oh, Todd mentioned they used to be close." And Olivia's like, "Close? That's one way of putting it." Like, how insensitive.
Olivia is then, she then says that, "Oh, sorry, I've got a bad case of foot and mouth." And then
Damn
continues.
Right. Yeah, she says, "Oh, it was a long time ago. Todd's probably forgotten he was ever in love with her now." And Liz is like, "In love?"
Yeah, like... And oh no, and then she also says, she doesn't think that Patsy and Todd ever really split up.
Yeah.
She just moved away. And it's like, what?
Yeah,
like...
Liz says, when did they break up? And she's like, "Oh, they never really did. They just sort of, Patsy just sort of moved away." So Liz is even more worried now.
I would be worried after
Olivia.
hearing this. This is like,
Olivia's meant to be like a sensitive, arty type,
Well...
She's not very sensitive.
I guess maybe she's just being honest for the sake of being honest, but yeah, I don't know.
So, yeah, Liz now thinks that Todd never fell out of love with her, and there was no breakup, so he could still want to be with her.
Yeah, and I think she's got a reasonable case building here to where, this is another one of the rare times where something's happened with Liz, and I'm like, I can kind of see why she feels that way through this book,
So, at rehearsals, Dee Dee is watching Bill from the wings, and her eyes are filled with tears as she thinks she's falling in love with him.
Oh.
And then she turns to see Roger Barrett, watching Lila with a similar expression on her face, and she feels a sudden flare of kinship with him.
Yeah.
As Lila's well out of his league.
Yeah, she literally sits there and she's like, "Yeah, Lila's well out of Roger's league."
Mm-hmm. So this is foreshadowing for the next book. So we will keep dropping in little bits with Roger, but
he kind of turns
there
up
is a reason
occasionally, and I'm right at the end. But there is a reason. So it gets to the point where Dee Dee's just really upset and she ends up leaving. She can't stand to watch anymore. But of course Bill catches her at lunch.
Yeah, in the cafeteria. He goes to sit with her. He asks for her opinion on the scene they just did. As Jessica has been putting him down and saying it was shit. And Dee Dee says it was great. And she says that Jess just doesn't like being upstaged.
Yeah, I mean, any time that Bill brings up, how did you think I was? Oh, I feel insecure about this. She immediately jumps to his defense. It's like, you're amazing. You're so good. And, Jess doesn't see talent. I do. You're incredible.
And then, to speak of the devil, Jess comes over. And Dee Dee thinks about stabbing her with a fork. Which I really wish that she'd done.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
That would be a good story.
Yeah, torn between wanting to melt and wanting to stab Jess with a fork.
And then Bill starts showering Jessica with compliments.
Of course.
Saying she could be in the movies. But Jessica isn't even listening.
No. She just says that she forgot the ketchup.
Yeah, she's looking at her burger in dismay.
Yeah. It's just not
very
the same
upset.
like ketchup.
Bill nearly falls over in his haste to go and get her some.
Yep.
Fucking idiot.
And of course, Dee Dee leaves upset again.
Yeah.
But bearing in mind that she ran away upset from the stage to be in the diner on her own and to be in the kitchen
People
cafeteria.
Just keep running away in this book.
Yeah, but this is like now, like 5 minutes later, she's like, okay, I'll go and get some food to get over this. And then they come over and upset her again, and now she's leaving the cafeteria.
There's also trouble at Todd and Liz's table.
Yeah, there is. Because
trouble in the cafeteria today.
There is trouble in the drama in the cafeteria today. My goodness. Liz is just absolutely massively distracted, thinking about Todd. And you know,
perfect Patsy.
Yeah. While
So she's asked Todd about Patsy, and Todd has told her that their relationship was exclusive.
yes, yeah.
So this has put her on edge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Todd basically is saying that, you know, oh, Jess sure knows how to use Bill.
Yeah, he starts slagging Jessica off.
And again, as often happens, Liz is very defensive over Jess.
Yeah. And then, because she's already on edge about Patsy, she just loses it at him.
Poor Todd. I mean, I know Todd's done wrong in this, but Liz does have this tendency to fly off the handle with Todd quite often.
So she just tells him she'll see him after school at rehearsals.
Yeah.
And then she's just thinking about how he's been spending a lot of time at rehearsals lately.
Hmm. And
then she bumps into Dee Dee and she realises why.
Yes, Dee Dee is in the hallway with bags of clothes. Dee Dee says that Patsy has been making clothes for the play after Todd suggested it. Todd suggested it to the teacher because Patsy used to model costumes in Paris.
Yeah, so Patsy is basically being at all the rehearsals as well. So Liz is really upset.
Yeah, and I don't really blame her. Also, I don't think that you modelling costumes means that you know anything about making costumes. I don't quite know how that works, but
she might have more fashion sense than most of them in that school.
That's true. Maybe.
Dana, actually. Dana should have been the costume woman.
Dana should have definitely been the costume designer.
So Liz bumps into Enid and she tells Enid everything.
Yeah.
And Enid suggests something radical. That she talks to Todd.
Oh my goodness.
That she tells Todd how she feels.
What a crazy concept.
But Liz says that she's afraid he'll break up with her.
What's the worst that could happen at this point? And also, why would you want to continue a relationship like this? You might as well just get the conversation had and get it sorted either way, right?
Yeah.
I'm also shocked and amazed, and in fact, I put a note at this point saying that I can't believe that Liz hasn't spoken to Mr. Collins yet.
Yeah.
Mr. Collins is just mentioned in this book, but he's not there to give the advice.
No, we don't get a lot, do we? In this book?
No, not much.
So at rehearsals again, most of this book takes place.
Yeah, there's a lot of rehearsals and beach.
Like I've said, at rehearsals about 10 times in the podcast so far. At the rehearsals, Jess invites Bill over to her house to cool off in the pool.
Yeah.
And again, he goes red.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. And he says he can't go because he promised to take Dee Dee surfing. Because Dee Dee has become good enough to enter the Women's Surfing Championship in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
And then Jessica starts stroking Bill's arm.
Yes.
And saying, it won't be the same without you.
And that she hopes to make up for missing their last date, even though that date was, can you bring the script over, please?
House.
Yeah.
And Dee Dee just can't stand it anymore, and she just tells him to go.
Yeah.
And she's like, I need to practice alone anyway.
Yeah.
For God's sake, Dee Dee. So at the Wakefield's pool, Jessica's showing off her diving skills. She's showing off her diving skills, and apparently she's literally told everybody to watch her.
Yeah. She's like, right,
pick up on that.
You're in my house,
yeah,
in my pool.
She's literally asked everyone to watch her dive. Like fucking hell. And then she does a perfect dive, and everyone applauds.
Of course. Well, they probably feel really awkward.
Ridiculous.
Like I should probably applaud.
Imagine if you came, people came over and you're like, watch me do this, watch me.
Yeah, come to my house and watch me dive.
Go to a club and you're like, watch me dance, everyone.
Watch me dance, everybody. Yeah.
So she does a perfect dive and everyone applauds. And then she's splashing around with Tom. And apparently she's ignored Bill ever since he got there.
Yeah.
Surprise.
As soon as Tom turns up, Bill's out the picture.
Mm. And he thinks to himself that this is how he treated Dee Dee. Yes,
well, he is absolutely right. And we're getting close to the, felt sorry for Bill. It was about this point in the book where I was like,
yeah,
Bill, you're being an asshole.
Yeah. And he thinks to himself, being in love is a lot like getting wiped out by a wave.
I guess.
You're not in love, you're obsessed.
Yeah, it's
creepy and it's weird.
It's a creepy obsession because Jess looks like your dead ex.
Yeah.
That's
And you were in love with her twin.
You're in love with
book ago.
anyone who looks like your dead ex, basically.
Yeah. And then Liz arrives home from the hot, stuffy library where she spent her afternoon.
Of course.
that's
Because
where she's been.
Liz is boring.
Yeah. And she walks into the living room. And then she walks into the living room and apparently she is struck, as she often was, by how athletic her father looked.
Yeah.
Fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Who walks into their living room, sees their dad, and they're like, oh, I'm struck by how athletic my dad looks. Like, how weird is that?
I want to know what
It's not normal.
I want to know what he's wearing to
God.
look so athletic. Because, like, bearing in mind, there's all these like kids out in the garden. Is he like just sat there like with his shirt open, all like, look at me, I'm so athletic.
He's wearing a vest.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, yeah, she's struck by how athletic her father looked. And he's hiding, apparently, from Jessica and her friends. I don't blame him.
Yeah, he's avoiding all the fun and drama.
I'd be avoiding them if I was in that house as well.
Yeah. But of course, Alice says Todd's in the garden too. And
Alice is in the kitchen and she's making guacamole. She's doing something. Alice.
It's just for show. It's just because there's people there.
Yeah, they've got guests. She's like, oh, I better look like a mother.
I think when
something.
guests are over, she makes out like she does stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good point, actually. Yeah. The first time we've seen her do things. I wouldn't guess it.
If it wasn't for Jess having friends over, it would be Alice and Ned in the pool and Jess and Liz making the food.
So, yeah, Liz gets changed into her bathing suit and heads outside.
Yes, determined this time that, maybe I should just speak to Todd, get things sorted and clear the air, and we'll go out and have some fun in the garden. But what does she find when she gets there?
She sees Todd crouching over Patsy. Patsy's lying stretched in golden splendour with her bikini top undone.
Yeah.
This sounds really rude.
Well, I think it is, really, I think,
While he's rubbing suntan lotion into her.
Fuck you, Todd.
It's like you're at your girlfriend's house, rubbing suntan lotion into your ex.
Yeah, at your girlfriend's house.
Yeah,
at her house, at her pool. See, this is where I got to the point where I was like, no, I think Todd is
an idiot.
He is an idiot, but how much of an idiot can you possibly be?
You can be that much of an idiot.
Okay.
I think.
All right, I do love Todd, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and just say that he is actually.
He wouldn't do this deliberately.
He's been the gold standard for the first 7 books. I thought he was like the one
gold standard of boyfriends
because he's the only one that hasn't been like rapey or deceptive or bullying, gaslighting. Todd's done none of that.
That doesn't mean he's good. So
well, it means
I'm a great boyfriend. I haven't tried to rape you.
I think by association, in contrast to everyone else.
Yeah.
Even Winston was horrible to Robin.
Yeah.
About her weight and stuff. Todd's done nothing. But now, this time, I'm afraid he's crossing the line. But yes, so of course Jess doesn't care. Liz is massively upset upon seeing this. Understandably so.
And she runs away.
Yeah.
Another person running away.
Yeah, you're right. This is a theme for this book is running away. Yeah. And of course, later that day, Todd is pleading with a locked door.
Yeah, she's locked herself in her bedroom.
Yeah.
And he says, he asks her if this is about him, touching up Patsy.
Yeah, probably.
This is about me touching up my ex-girlfriend.
Is it because I was applying lotion to my ex-girlfriend's naked back?
Yeah.
Well, given that she ran away at that point in tears, I'd say that's probably the reason.
Yeah, probably the reason.
Probably.
And she says, rub all you like. I don't care. She won't listen to anything he has to say.
No, she shuts out his feeble explanations with her pillow.
And then he eventually gives up and goes back downstairs.
But then she immediately feels heartbroken as soon as she hears him. She hears the steps come downstairs.
Then she feels abandoned.
Yeah.
And she thinks if he really cared, he would have tried harder to convince me. Like, he has been stood outside your door for God knows how long.
Ages.
Like, pleading with you.
Yeah.
And then Jess comes in.
Through the twin door, as I like to call it.
The bathroom. Yeah. So their rooms are connected by a bathroom.
Yeah.
Which one I always used to love that about this book when I was a kid.
You love the idea?
Yeah, because I shared a room with my sister.
Oh yeah,
and I
you'd certainly
hated
rather
it.
have separate rooms.
And I was like, oh, they've got that. I can't believe they've got their own bathroom. You know, we had to share a bathroom with our family.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really cool they had a bathroom. Really cool that like they had their own rooms and that the bathroom was like in between.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, I agree. That's very true.
So Jess comes in through the bathroom, and she throws her arms around Liz, and she says that she's always suspected Todd was a rat.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Jess is long hated Todd. I thought they kind of got over it in the last book, but apparently not. Jess is still hating Todd.
And then she gets upset that Liz didn't confide in her sooner, and Liz ends up consoling her. Every time.
It's all about
Every
Jess.
time.
It's all about Jess. But of course, eventually Liz does actually confide in Jess. And she says that she has mentioned that Todd's been... she has noticed, that Todd's been spending a lot of time with Patsy.
And then she says that it's Liz he loves, and there are other things besides looks. She's making it sound like Liz is really ugly or something.
yeah.
Looks aren't everything, Liz.
Yeah, looks aren't everything. But of course, Patsy is perfect. So.
Yeah, she's even better than the Wakefield twins. I can't believe it.
Yeah. So Liz straight up asks if she thinks something's going on with Todd. Or sorry, she straight up asks if Todd is in love with Patsy. And Jess says it looks kind of suspicious. And I'm not sure at this point. I'm like, why are you listening to Jess? Because you know that Jess hates Todd.
Yeah.
Like, she's going to use any excuse to slag him off anyway. So I don't really think this is the right person. Speak to Enid. Phone your best friend, who is the person who always gives sense in your life. Go see Mr. Collins, who will always give you the best
Mr. Collins
advice.
might still be mad at her for her slander in the last book.
He might be mad. We don't know. What we do know is that he has given her a job back.
Her job.
Her job. Quote. Unquote.
She's professional.
Job. Because to distract herself from Todd and all of that upset, she decides to focus on her career. The eyes and ears column of the Oracle.
And apparently she's writing an article on summer job opportunities.
Yeah.
And Ned has promised to get her an interview with the man who owns his office building.
Which sounds like the most dull interview I have ever heard in
I
my
know.
life. A guy who owns a building.
He's called
Great.
Mr. Pendergast.
Yes. And I mean, we know why we go here, but it just felt like, can you have made him something interesting? Because they don't really say what he does. He just owns the building that the law firm works out of. But okay.
And apparently he often hires teenagers to save money. Sounds like a great guy.
What a great guy.
Child labour. So Liz goes to find him because she remembers that he often works on Saturdays.
Yes, and she's upset and she wants something to distract herself. So she heads on up there.
And when she gets there, she's shocked at what she sees.
Oh my God. Is that Roger Barrett?
Dressed in dark green overalls, mopping a floor.
Oh my God, he's a janitor.
She asks him why he's never mentioned that he works there. And he says he doesn't want people to know because most kids wouldn't be called dead as a janitor.
Yeah.
Which is true.
It is true. He also explains that he has to do this. Is the only way that his family can pay the rent is if he does work. Liz just goes over the top.
She's so patronising.
Yeah, she's like, oh my God.
She's like, I admire your ambition.
I admire ambition. But it does say that inwardly she pities him because she's just really shallow.
And she tells him he should be proud of himself.
It's so patronising. I just imagine her like patting him on the head while she says it.
She's going to be patting him
ruffling
on the
his
shoulder.
hair.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so brave.
Yeah. Makes me feel sick. Makes me sick.
She's awful. And then, like I said, inwardly, we just see that she's a completely judgmental bitch. And it's just externally, she just pretends to be nice.
And she promises not to tell anyone that he works there.
Yeah.
So, again, at rehearsals.
Back at rehearsal.
At fucking rehearsals. Jess
This play must... The play
They
presumably
rehearsed it a
goes well
lot.
in the end, but it has to after the amount they will have rehearsed it.
Yeah.
It's insane. So, yes, backstage, Jess is nervous. Yeah.
Yeah, she's nervous because Dee Dee's father's decided to drop by.
Yeah. And Lila's asking why nobody told her about Dee Dee's father being a Hollywood agent.
Yeah, Lila tells her to stop being so nervous. Okay, I will.
Yeah.
Just stop being so nervous. And Jessica says that's easy for you to say, as you're not playing the lead.
Mm.
And then Lila says, actually, I was offered the lead role in Raiders of the Lost Ark before Karen Allen. But I had to turn it down.
Because of snakes.
And Jessica says, was Harrison Ford too much for you? And she says, of course not. Harry and I got along fine. It's just that I hate snakes.
So, I looked into this.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. This book was published in 1984. Lila, 16 years old, presumably. Same age as Jess, I'm assuming. And Raiders of the Lost Ark was filmed in 1980. So, apparently, according to Lila's lie, they were going to cast Lila to be the romantic interest for Harrison Ford at age 12.
Yeah, that's a bit creepy.
It's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. But of course, Jess uses this imagery to her benefit, thinking as she goes out that she'll just pretend that Bill is Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
To help her get through.
And she remembers the scene with the tomb full of snakes.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes.
And she decides that she'll just get Liz to be her stunt double.
Yeah. She brings that up again later, I think, as well.
She does, yeah. So after the rehearsals, Dee Dee tells everyone that her father spotted someone really talented.
Oh my God.
And he wants to make them a star. But he won't say who yet because he doesn't want to make them nervous. So he's going to bring a producer along to the opening night to watch them.
Yeah.
And Jessica's like, oh, it won't be me because I'm the worst one in the whole play.
Wow.
And Bill's like, oh, you're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We know it's going to be you.
Yeah. And of course, Jess is frustrated because Dee Dee can't say who it is. She's like, how can you keep me in suspense like this? It's cruel and inhumane.
But she secretly thinks that it is her.
Yes, of course.
And she tells Lila that she can visit her in her Beverly Hills mansion. And she says, don't worry, I'll still send you Christmas cards. Lila's got her own mansion.
Yeah,
anyway.
I was going to say, like, coming round to her mansion isn't going to really blow her away. She's already got her own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dee Dee says that she can't wait to find out who it is herself, because she doesn't know. And throws her arms around Bill in excitement. In that moment of excitement, she loses herself.
And then she gets really embarrassed, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does.
So she asks Bill if he'll go surfing with her that day.
Yeah.
Because she's nervous about Saturday's championship. And he says, I'm supposed to be going over some lines with Jess. It's like this. It's just so repetitive.
It's the same thing over and over.
This book is like Dee Dee asking Bill to do something. Bill saying I can't because I'm doing something with Jess. Bill feels bad.
Yeah, or Jess cancelling. And then Dee Dee being second best.
Or Jess comes over and starts being a bitch, and Dee Dee gets upset and runs away.
Yeah.
So yeah, this time, Jessica breezes in and she says, "Oh, I can't make it. Something else has come up." So he's like, "Oh, okay. I'll be able to hang out with you after all, Dee Dee."
Yeah,
I'd be like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, totally. Like, so yeah, the book even says that he looks really crestfallen when Jess says she can't make it, but then he just basically looks at Dee Dee. He's like, "Well, I guess I'm free now."
Yeah.
Do you want that? And I'd be like, "No, you're right." To be honest, like I'm not. I have some self-respect.
In the cafeteria, Jessica tells Liz that Dee Dee's dad is going to make her a star. Yeah,
she's convinced now. That's it. She's going to be a star. Liz questions if she's specifically named Jess, and Jess obviously says that that's not the case. But it's obvious.
And then she gets annoyed at Liz because Liz is saying to her not to get too excited. She gets annoyed and storms off. Yeah,
she says that you're only doing this because you're jealous and upset over Todd. Just storms off.
And Enid comes over and asks Liz if she's spoken to Todd yet. And Liz knows that it's getting silly. So after her last class, she goes to find Todd.
Yeah.
And she finds him.
Oh, she does.
With his arms around Patsy. So apparently Patsy's clinging to him. And she's stroking... Patsy's clinging to him and he's stroking her back and murmuring in her ear.
Yes.
And Liz thinks, he's probably telling her that he loves her.
Yeah, clinging
So,
to him in a way that left no doubt in her mind.
Instead of walking over there and being
and
like,
actually saying something.
what is going on? What do you think she does?
Well, as you've pointed out, the theme of this book, she runs away.
She runs away, crying. So, this book is basically the same three things happening. They're at rehearsals. The Dee Dee and Bill thing happens, and then Liz sees something suspicious and runs away crying.
Yeah, or Dee Dee runs away crying.
Repeat until the end.
Or Bill runs away.
Bill goes red.
Bill goes red and runs away embarrassed. Dee Dee runs away crying. Liz runs away crying.
So, we're nearly there, don't worry.
We're getting there.
Just a few more people running away crying and this is over.
We'll be there soon.
So meanwhile, at Jess's locker, Bill asks her to be his date for the cast party. That's a bit brave of him.
It was very forward of him. I was surprised.
To her without even going red.
I'm assuming it took him like half an hour to ask.
But she says she's going with Tom, and she suggests that he ask Dee Dee. And then he realises that she doesn't care about him and thinks, maybe I will take Dee Dee.
Yeah, he also
maybe Dee Dee won't want to go with you.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame her if she didn't at this point.
Yeah.
He also thinks that it was easier for him. He thinks, talking to Julianne was never this hard. It's because they're different people, Bill.
Yeah.
Because they're completely different people.
And he goes to the beach with Dee Dee and he has a great time with her.
Yeah.
But she knows that he's thinking about Jessica.
Well, yes, he is a bit distracted, isn't he?
The waves are enormous and Dee Dee's a bit scared, but she wants to impress him and show him that she can handle it.
God knows why.
So she just goes ahead and starts surfing on the big waves, but suddenly she's flung forward and pulled under the water.
And blacks out.
And Bill doesn't notice this, so because he's distracted by thinking about Jessica, he doesn't even notice that she's fucking drowning next to him.
Yeah, she's literally just disappeared and drowning now.
And by the time he does notice, she's face down in the water.
Yeah, she's like dead.
Yeah.
So yes, Dee Dee is lying motionless in the water, and Bill does, finally jump into action and rescues her back to shore, but she is lying unconscious on the beach, not breathing.
And he starts to give her mouth to mouth.
Yeah.
But then suddenly he wonders, how come he never noticed how pretty she was? He's like that doctor from Dangerous Love.
Yeah.
Dear Sister.
Dear Sister, yeah.
Where, somebody's, dying.
Somebody's near death.
Somebody's near death. And it's like, how pretty you are.
Actually, I know she's, in a coma and almost dead, but
well,
she's really
it describes her as, it says her face has turned blue.
Yeah. That's
so
just
I've never
what gets
noticed
Bill
how
going,
pretty she is before. It's like, God, your timing, you've seen her enough.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so he starts giving her mouth to mouth, and he looks into her eyes and he feels as though he's the one who's drowning.
Oh my God.
I bet you don't feel like you're the one who's drowning.
I wouldn't have thought so.
Like, she's got a massive bruise on her temple where she's been knocked out by the board, apparently.
Yeah.
She's turned blue. You don't know how she feels. Fuck off.
Yeah. So Dee Dee obviously wakes up.
Yeah, and apparently she wakes up and she forgets that she's half drowned and freezing cold.
Yep.
Because the only thing she is aware of is Bill's kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Bill is, according to the book, staring at Dee Dee in an odd, intense way.
I bet he is.
I know that sounded really weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically, Bill says he's been an idiot. He finally says to Dee Dee how he feels. And my favourite part was that he says, "You're not just a terrific person, but also a terrific kisser too." I was like, she was fucking unconscious.
Yeah.
You're a great kisser, while you're dying, while you're almost dead. Yeah,
and also, apparently, he dries her off and he discovers she's too weak to stand up. And it's maybe stop trying it on with her and get a doctor.
Get her some medical assistance.
And then they kiss again and she hears a strange humming in her ears. It's seriously, go to the doctors. Go to the A&E.
Where are the lifeguards at this beach? I mean, I know they said it was a quiet beach, but surely by now someone's like, oh, that girl's nearly dead.
She's nearly dead and some
She's
weird...
like on the beach and someone's resuscitating her.
She's nearly dead and some weird guy is like, you know...
All over
getting
her.
off with her when she's unconscious.
Yeah.
So at the Wakefields' house, Liz has accidentally burned Jessica's head with the curling tongs.
Yes,
Good.
she's so distracted by Todd. Yeah.
And Jess says, "Stop moping around over that creep. And I'm the one who should be a wreck tonight, as it could be the beginning of my Hollywood career."
Yeah. Liz, of course, reminds Jess that, it still might not be her.
And Jessica says, "Todd will be nothing compared to the men you'll meet in Hollywood." And Liz is like, "What are you talking about? I'm not going to Hollywood." And Jess is like, "No, you're going to be my stunt double. And you can even sign autographs when my hand gets tired."
Brilliant. Thanks.
And Liz is like, "Yeah, I'll be too busy at college."
I'll be a massive news journalist by then.
Yeah. And Jessica's like, "Well, don't count on getting an interview from me."
Brilliant. So, it's the big day.
Finally here.
It's finally here. The auditorium is full. It's not a rehearsal. This time it's for real. Backstage, Jess is teasing Lila about Roger. Saying that he probably dreams about her at night.
And Jessica asks Liz if she looks okay. And she's furious because Liz says she looks fine.
Yeah, she's like, fine?
And then,
is that all you can say?
Yeah, and then Lila tells her that she looks unbelievably, fantastically, awesomely ravishing. Jess like, that's more like it.
That's better.
And Lila tells her that Dee Dee came third in the surfing contest.
Yeah, they let her compete in the surfing contest, even though she had a massive concussion-like bruise on her forehead and nearly drowned.
And that Bill kissed her in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But Jess is like, they can shrivel up like prunes for all I care. I'm too busy thinking about my movie contract.
Yeah, she's moved on.
So it's showtime. She thinks it must be hard for Bill to act alongside someone as talented as herself.
Of course.
Afterwards, everyone tells her how fantastic she was. They got a standing ovation, and she was apparently blowing kisses to the audience. And just like see it in my mind. Yeah, she gets handed like a big bunch of flowers, and she's blowing kisses to everyone.
Yeah. And Liz,
Bitch.
of course, says that Jess was incredible and that she almost cried the whole way through. Alice needed to bring extra tissues just for Liz's crying. But also we learn that Liz inwardly thinks the whole thing was ironic because apparently the in the play, the character that Bill plays runs off with a girl called Angela, who it turns out was played by Dee Dee. Dee Dee had a small part in the play, but apparently never rehearsed it. Who knows?
Yeah, all she seems to do at rehearsals was
run away,
stand around watching Bill
and
tears
run off
in
in
her
set.
eyes.
Yeah, upset.
Yeah.
But no, apparently she played a small role.
Mr. Gordon is going around congratulating everybody.
God, it's the big moment.
He tells Jess to keep up the good work, and then he's gone.
Yeah, he congratulates her on a great performance, but he moves on to the other people.
And she is astonished when she sees a big commotion going on around Bill.
Oh my God! Shock of shocks! The big twist. It was Bill the whole time.
Yeah, he's shaking Bill's hand, and she hears Dee Dee say, "I knew it had to be you."
Yeah, and I mean, Dee Dee has been his biggest supporter the whole way through. I mean, she has been consistent with that.
And of course, Jess is like, "Well, Dee Dee probably nagged her father into picking him."
Yeah. It couldn't possibly be that he was more talented than Jess.
And Liz tells her to just leave it, but she's already sailing towards Bill and Dee Dee, primed for attack. Sounds terrifying.
Yeah. So now that Bill has a potential Hollywood career, Jess has now decided that suddenly he is kind of attractive.
Yeah.
After all, I never noticed before. But now that he's got potentially a very successful Hollywood career ahead of him, I find him weirdly attractive.
She says he looks like a young Robert Redford.
Yeah. That happens a lot. A lot of people look like a young Robert Redford. Didn't
Mr. Collins
look like a young Robert Redford? Yeah.
Yeah, she goes and stands between Bill and Dee Dee with her back to Dee Dee.
Yeah.
What a bitch.
She's such a bitch in this. She really is.
And she tells Bill that she'd love to discuss his future plans at the party. And they could go out next Saturday to celebrate properly. And then what do you think Dee Dee does? It's happening again.
She stands there and says, Jess, stop being a bitch. I am with Bill.
Yeah.
And stop, stop this right now. No, she runs away.
Yeah, she starts crying and she slips away quietly.
Yeah. Poor Dee Dee. But Bill says he can't go with Jess because he's with Dee Dee. But of course he turns around. Dee Dee's not there.
Dee Dee is sat outside the gym and she's sobbing and cold.
Oh.
And she thinks she doesn't care if she freezes to death.
No. But she sees someone else out there who looks like he's in the same situation.
It's Roger.
And Roger says, he knows how she feels and confesses his unrequited love for Lila.
And they decide to go to the party together.
Yeah.
As they can't hide away forever.
Yep. Meanwhile, Liz is refusing to go to the party with Jess, who says that she needs her there. Because Jess has basically got no one to go with now. She's cancelled with Tom because she's obsessed with Bill again now. But of course, Bill's not going with her, so she needs someone to go with. So, stunt double Liz can go with Jess.
Yeah. Liz doesn't want to go because she doesn't want to see Todd.
Everyone's running away from their problems in this book.
Yeah. But she reluctantly agrees.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they get there, Liz is greeted by Patsy.
Yes.
Who is looking stunning, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
In a peach shimmery low-cut jumpsuit. Does sound nice.
It does sound nice, yeah. It's nice.
And Liz wants the floor to swallow her up.
Oh, dear.
But Patsy's completely oblivious to this.
Yeah.
And she asks Liz if she's seen Todd. And Liz can't believe her nerve.
Yeah.
So she runs away onto the porch and cries.
God. But, while crying, some lovely muscular arms grab her. It's Todd.
Yeah, he grabs her from behind and a husky voice says, "It's no use trying to escape."
Come here, you little fool.
I love the way Todd speaks to her after they've had a row.
Yeah, I know.
Really funny.
It's amazing.
So we ask her, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if she wants to break up with him. And she's like, is this a sick joke?
Yeah, Todd's actually done this all just to wind her up.
And he's like, well, all I know is you've been avoiding me. And she's like, well, I saw you and Patsy together.
Yes, and she specifically brings up the locker bit.
Yeah.
That she saw him with his arms around her and stuff.
But he explains that Patsy just got a letter from her boyfriend telling her that he'd met someone else.
Yeah.
So he was just comforting her. She was upset.
Yeah.
So then they kiss and make up. And she starts crying tears of happiness.
Yeah, Liz says
oh, God.
Liz says that she can't believe she's been such a dope, and Todd says luckily he has a thing for dopes.
Yeah.
And Liz is crying tears of joy, and they kiss but no connect the dots kiss.
No, but he does say, "Don't cry. There's a penalty for crying, you know." And she's like, "Oh yeah, what's that?" He's like, "This," and leans down to kiss her.
Oh dear.
And he sets loose a flurry of warm sensations inside of her. Like she's having an orgasm from a kiss.
Well, remember, I think it was in it might have even been in Double Love. Her most erotic fantasy was Todd ruffling her hair, wasn't it?
Kissing her on the forehead.
Kissing her on the forehead and ruffling her hair.
Yeah. And then he tells her there's more where that came from if you don't watch it.
Oh, Todd.
Do you forgive him now?
I do. I forgive him for this.
You've just got to love him, haven't you?
You have. I mean, he is you're right. It's the way he talks to her. And when they make up, it's hilarious. I will never forget Come Here, You Little Fool.
I know.
That's my favourite so far. But
my favourite's the Connect the Dots kiss.
That was the same time, wasn't it? Connect the Dots.
It was
and
actually.
Come Here, You Little Fool.
It was. Yeah. Meanwhile, inside, Jessica's snuggling up to Bill on a couch.
Yeah, but Bill's not really interested.
No. She's telling him they can have a barbecue on the beach and he can teach her how to surf.
Wow.
And then suddenly he stands up and spills the ginger ale when Dee Dee and Roger arrive.
Yeah. Yeah. Dee Dee and Roger have turned up. And Bill puts his arm around Dee Dee.
Yeah.
And he says he's going to be busy for the foreseeable future.
He says he's going to be busy every weekend with Dee Dee.
Jess cannot fucking believe it.
Yeah, she's mortified. And it's her turn now. She runs off crying.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically what's happened is that years ago, some time ago, Bill Chase turned Jess down for a date. So she's gone on this mad revenge, and the result of that revenge is that Bill's turned her down for a date. So basically the same thing's just happened twice.
Yeah.
Because of her. Yeah, totally. It totally serves her right. Yeah. So Jess is, everyone will be happy to know, the last person to run away in this book.
And Tom has also ditched her.
Yes.
And he's dancing
well, she
with
kind
Patsy.
of ditched Tom. Like, she ditched Tom like, a couple of times, and then she ditched him for this dance because she specifically wanted to get with Bill. So it's her own fault. It's a hell of her own making.
Yeah. And Tom is dancing with Patsy.
Yeah.
Cara points out that Roger's alone, and Jess says
loudly
that they need to save him for Lila. And then Lila's like, I won't dance with Roger if he was the last boy on earth. And of course, at that moment, the music cuts out. At the exact moment she says that sentence. And everybody hears, the whole room hears.
Yeah.
And Roger runs away crying. It just keeps happening.
He just wasn't the last person to run away. It was Roger.
Roger bounced out of the room. And Liz feels really bad for him.
Oh my God.
And she thinks to herself, what would Lila do if she discovered Roger's secret? He's a janitor. Oh
my God. Would it matter at this point? She's not even interested in him, so I guess it doesn't matter. Maybe she already does know.
Yeah.
So
it says Roger's crush on Lila was worse than hopeless. It was positively heart-rending. Oh, no. And then it says Roger and Lila have big surprises in store for them in Sweet Valley High number 9, Love on the Run.
Love
but
on the
Run?
Run?
It's not called Love on the Run, it's called Racing Hearts.
Oh.
But apparently it was supposed to be called Love on the Run. And then they changed the name. So, but in this copy of the book that I've got, must have been printed too late for the name change, and it still says Love on the Run in it.
Oh, wow.
I quite like that it's got like that little error in it.
Oh, no, it's cool, yeah.
I like books with errors in.
Yeah, well,
not
it
spelling
makes them
like errors.
unique.
Yeah.
Is a history we'll probably never find out the reason why. I'm guessing that it was just copyrighted, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. If anybody knows, let us know.
Yeah. So, how did you find this one?
Quite amusing in places, but pretty repetitive. As like we said earlier, it's just sort of the same thing happening over and over again.
It feels like it
in different situations.
They probably could have shaved about 30 pages off.
Yeah.
And it would have been fine. Things just... It's fine at first, but then things just repeat over and over again. Like Dee Dee and Bill repeating over and over again. It got to the point where I was like, oh, Bill, just stop. Like, it's getting so...
And Elizabeth thinking over and over again, she's going to talk to Todd, and then she finds him in some situation with Patsy and gets upset. Just... It was really repetitive. It wasn't one of the best.
It's difficult as well after what we had in the last book. It was always going to feel like a bit of a come down. But it was fine. I like Dee Dee. She seems like a cool character. I'm hoping we see more of her and Bill now that they're together.
Bill's an idiot. I don't like Bill.
No, I started off feeling really bad for Bill.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the book, I was like, I kind of hope that Dee Dee doesn't get with Bill. There was that point when her and Roger are outside and stuff. Or like a couple of times when she sees Roger and they talk, I was kind of like, I kind of hope that she gets with him. Because like Bill does treat her like absolute shit this whole book, really. Until the very end. It takes her almost dying for Bill to realise.
Yeah.
And she literally nearly had to drown for this relationship to get started.
I found Roger insulted her a bit as well, actually, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he was like, he realised she fancied Bill, and he was like, yeah, we're in the same situation. Lila's way out of my league too. And like, you're basically calling her a loser. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh dear.
Like, speak for yourself.
Well,
you janitor.
You fucking janitor. Well, we will see, won't we? Because maybe, maybe he'll get some karma himself next time. I'm assuming the next book pretty much going to focus on Lila and Roger. I'm looking forward to more Lila.
Yeah. So what's going on with the bingo?
What is going on with the bingo? Well,
Did we have rapey behaviour?
I think...
I can't remember if we did.
Well, no. I'm going to say no, but I think it was borderline.
Actually, no, we did have rapey behaviour. But kind of. You're probably going to say the same thing as me.
Go on.
Bill on the beach,
Yep.
basically getting off with Dee Dee when she was
When
unconscious.
she was basically unconscious, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it started off with mouth to mouth, but then it definitely became something weirder.
Yeah, definitely.
And, so I think, yeah, it's borderline.
So, yeah. Did we have gaslighting all over the place?
Yes,
I guess,
100%.
by Jessica towards Liz, as usual. We had the number 37.
Yeah.
We didn't have a dance unless you count the cast party.
The cast party, I think there was dancing.
Yeah.
So I think we did have a dance. We didn't have the droids playing.
No. We didn't have Todd threatening somebody.
No, not this time.
Unless you count him threatening Liz for the crying
For
punishment.
crying. How dare you?
More where that came from,
Yeah.
by the way. Yeah, like you said, the droids didn't play an event. Mr. Collins was not called handsome.
Mr. Collins was not appearing in this book.
No, he wasn't even in it at all, was he?
He's mentioned, basically, Bill was really good in English or something, so Mr. Collins said, you should be an actor, and Mr. Collins is the reason that Bill's become an actor.
Yeah.
But we don't actually see Mr. Collins, and I'm really shocked because that's where Liz always gets her advice from, and this time she didn't. She didn't get advice from Mr. Collins.
Jessica admiring herself in front of a mirror. I don't think we had that.
I don't think we did, actually. I mean, we do get her, talking about herself a lot, but no, I don't think we do.
And the final one, Elizabeth doesn't tell Todd how she feels.
Oh, God, yes.
Yes.
Elizabeth doesn't tell Todd how she feels. She doesn't tell Bill Chase what's going on until Bill basically says Jess is on a date with someone, isn't she? Liz never tells anyone anything. She doesn't tell Enid for a while as well. She's like, it's fine. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's like, just tell people stuff. And again, as crazy as things were looking, and I understand how Liz felt in this book, if she had just gone up to Todd early on and been like, what's the deal?
Yeah. So that was book number 8, Heartbreaker.
Yeah.
And join us next fortnight in 2 weeks' time for number 9, Love on the Run, aka Racing Hearts.
Racing Hearts. Thanks for listening, everybody. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Please follow us on Instagram and everywhere else. And see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.